All right, Gary, it's Charge the Storm, and lead generation, I mean, is really where we get to actually do the charging part. That's the way I think of it, right?
Yeah, it's time to build your business now. Mm-hmm. It's time to go find your buyers, your sellers, your customers, your clients, and get after it.
A lot of people have gone from this sense of, can I manage my expenses and my people, like, to a place of survival? And this is where you have a chance to kind of move into that opportunity to survive, to thrive. That's what I remember, at least from the last recession. Once you got your house in order, you could go on the offensive.
Yeah, recessions are a normal part of the business cycle, Jay. Mm-hmm. So we know they're coming, and that means we should have planned for it in advance. But even then, you still have to, when it hits you fast. So you're still going to have to kind of hunker down for a second and figure out, okay, am I okay? Can I survive? And we've already talked about that.
Right.
Yes, you set yourself up to survive, but now you and I want to talk about thriving.
That's right. So in a lot of, when we went through the last market recession and we wrote the book Shift, like, one of the big principles that we talked about, you have to kind of know the numbers you have to hit in this new market. Like, your math changes completely.
Yeah, that's right. Every business has business math. Right?
Yeah.
It literally, and in our industry, it starts with, right, how many leads I need to generate in order to create how many appointments I'm going to set, to how many appointments are kept, to how many agreements I get, to how many transactions are done and closed, right? So we have this math that we go through, and you have to know your numbers. Every business has to know their numbers. And once you know your numbers, you know your conversion numbers. Once you understand that, then you can work backwards all the way to answer the big question. And that is, now, how many people do I have to have at the top of my lead generation funnel in order to hit my minimum numbers that I want to hit?
So I guess a parallel for folks that aren't in our industry, I'm thinking about, like, retail. Mm-hmm. They kind of know, based on how many people come into their store, Target or whatever, what the average customer value is.
There you go.
I know for me, like, I can't escape, it seems like, without spending $88. Like, you just go to get toilet paper and suddenly there it is. But so maybe I'm on the good end of that. And there might be people that are worth $5, but it averages out. So they realize maybe that goes down in the shift. They have to get more people to get back to that number. And that's the math they're trying to figure out. Now, how do I get those people into my store, virtual or otherwise, at that new value to hit the numbers I need to get?
Sure. Every business has its math, but it all begins with how many customers you talk to. How many clients you talk to, potential clients that you talk to. Yes.
So if it was, I need to talk to 50 a week in the last market, now it's 100. Once I know that number, what do I do with it?
Yeah, there you go. Well, okay, so you have to know your number. Once you know your number, we are going to advise, you and I are going to advise that you slow down for just a second and you figure out what message matches that market. Because that's the big thing, that when the market changes, the messages change, right? Mm-hmm. Your numbers change. Remember, a recession means buying of all things is basically receding to different degrees. You and I happen to be in the real estate industry, which, if you go Google it, which I did this morning for the fun of it, and it wasn't any fun because it listed real estate and construction as the number one industries that are always hit by a recession. So we will never be in the recession-proof industry. We're right there along with hospitality, manufacturing, and retail. And they're the toughest that are always hit, right? Because people buy less.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, you have this idea of elastic and inelastic needs. And we happen to be an industry that has elastic needs.
Right. And it's like gas and food are things that are inelastic. Like, no matter what the situation, you got to get to work and to earn your paycheck, and you've got to be able to put food on the table.
That's right.
Everything else is kind of discretionary.
Yeah, that's
like,
right.
I don't have to trade up my home necessarily.
Right. So our orientation, if you're listening to us talk about all of this, your and my orientation is always towards not being recession proof and being hit really hard by recession because we're in that industry that's at the top of the line for that. So we know this. We know that every industry has its numbers, the math that they have to work through that ultimately tells them how many people they have to have at the top of their lead generation funnel. And the next move then is your message has to match the market, right? And you and I call that a MOFR, right? Making offers for immediate response. So what you do is either by prospecting, which again, just talk directly to customers or clients, right, or potential customers, and find out what messages resonate with them. Why would they do business today? Why would they buy something or sell something today?
Yeah, I mean, that makes total sense. Like, it just shifted. Like, in one market, they needed something from you, and now you have to adapt your value proposition to what they need today. Yeah, and that's really, I mean, if you're a business person, adapting to the needs of your customer is kind of your job description. Yeah, but we forget that in good times.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, and you change your messaging. You know, in our industry, the affordability is mistakenly always presumed to be the monthly mortgage payment that you make. But you and I both know, having talked about this for several decades now, that people forget that the real affordability cost is the overall interest that you pay over the life of the loan. So what happens is people, when the market shifts, and let's say that they're in an environment where interest rates go up, okay, marketing an interest rate is not going to generate a lot of excitement in today's market. But when you start marketing how to lower your total cost of owning the property, you're right back into that sweet spot where the consumer goes, okay, well, that interests me. What are you talking about? And now we get to have a conversation.
What's funny is those two opportunities exist in every market. I can base my budget on the monthly payment, which is how people qualify, right? And that's one of the reasons that's such a big judgment. Or what's the total cost for this asset over time, if you're thinking that way.
Yeah, that's right.
And in this current market, I was just reading in the Wall Street Journal this morning, buy downs are making this big comeback because people are focused. It depends on, we both know buy downs can lower the total cost and the monthly cost, but that was almost like a dirty word in the Great Recession because they were abused.
Well,
and wow, it's back with like a vengeance.
It's back. Well, the thing is that being responsible about reducing the overall cost of your interest over time should always be important. But that message doesn't resonate in a market with low interest rates, right? Right. If you put out that message that says, save money over time, nobody cares, particularly when interest rates are low.
So like if you're testing a MOFR, you could throw things out there.
That's right.
Test the market and say, are you looking for, if I could get you a lower monthly payment, would that interest you? Or you could say, as you're saying, well, a lot of people are forgetting, if I could save you money on the total cost of this, is that something that I could talk to you about? But we broke down a MOFR, right? Make offers for immediate response into a little bit of a system, like 5 steps.
Let's go through it.
So first step is identify a common problem.
Yeah.
Like, since we're talking about mortgage rates,
that's right.
When the rates went up, a lot of people couldn't afford the monthly payment. And so people focused on fixing that problem.
Sure.
You figure out how to solve it.
Yeah, that's right.
Hopefully before your competitors.
Well, you mentioned the buy downs,
right,
and or mortgage hacks that could solve that problem. That's exactly right. You identify the common problem, and then you come up with a solution. It's not going to be a solution for everybody, but a solution that would work in that market. That's right.
That's right. Then this is the really important part. A lot of people forget what makes a MOFR different than just direct response marketing. You're going to take your solution to that problem and kind of package it into a program. Why is that important?
Well, because in our industry, I'll speak directly to the real estate industry, we make a mistake by promoting ourselves over a program that offers benefits to the consumer. Right. So when you repackage that idea, this MOFR, this message, of a promise of an experience or a problem solved to the consumer, and you repackage that back into a name and then go and promote that opportunity to the consumer, it's going to make more sense to them.
Yeah, they're used to already buying branded solution. I want a Dyson vacuum cleaner because that means it's top of the line, whatever that is. But the example that you pointed out when we were preparing, maybe the best MOFR of our time was Amazon Prime.
That's right.
This idea that when you pay X of dollars, it used to be 99, now it's like what, 139 or something?
Something like that.
It's moving up, right?
Yeah, and everybody pays it.
Yeah, because it used to be just free shipping.
Yeah.
And now they just keep adding to the bundle
Value.
of their value. And what's funny is they did label it with their brand, their name, Amazon, but that's the Prime benefit, right? I want to be a Prime member because I want to stream the Lord of the Rings show and I want free shipping.
Yeah. That was one of the all-time mofers, right? In our industry, if you go back, 40 years, 50 years even, a free market analysis to determine the value of your home was the most common mofer that people responded to, right?
Yeah. And it's still used out there today. Do you want to know how much your home is worth? For most people, it's the most valuable asset they own, and they should be more interested.
Yeah. The another one that is still popular today is if we don't sell, your home will buy it.
That's right, the guaranteed sale. Well, that started back. Did that start back in the 80s? Who was it?
Oh, it was earlier than that. It was back in. I got in the industry in '79, and it was back then. It was already out there.
Got it.
I think it was ERA or someone like
Realty
that.
Executives or ERA is what I was thinking. So ERA,
Yeah,
maybe?
It was ERA. Yeah, that had made that a national program for a while.
There you go.
Yeah, but it's still alive and well, and it works, right?
But that just tells you, like, if you figure out the right one, it can go from just being a offer that you use to kind of get an edge in the circumstances, like in a shift, to something that could define your whole company.
Yeah, that's right.
I was talking beforehand, like the Domino's 30 minutes or it's free. Right. When I was growing up, that was like you start watching the clock. But I still associate, I'm sure now people associate it with their great app and knowing, like you can see it in real time, but I still associate that early mofer from them, which they had thought through really well. I know that you read the biography. What is it?
Pizza Tiger.
Pizza Tiger. They, on average, delivered faster than that anyway. So they made an offer they knew that they could solve, that their competitors, the common problem was, I don't know when my pizza is going to get here.
Right.
And they solved it in a way that got people's attention.
Yeah. So then number 4, you integrate that program into your business.
There you
right?
go.
It becomes not just something that we do, it becomes kind of who you are. And you used Amazon Prime and Domino's Pizza as 2 examples, but we now associate those businesses directly with those mofers.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So again, depending on, it doesn't really matter what business you're in. When the market gets tight, the message matters more than ever before. And you need to figure it out, what resonates. You need to turn it into a program. You need to incorporate that into your business. And then you need to market that program.
There you go. There's the 5 steps right there.
Yeah.
And in getting back to, you've got your smart message, right? So there's either an offer that really works. We used to also talk about markets of the moment, or maybe there's just a segment that used to not take up much of your business, but now is the actually only active segment. Right. It's this group of people that is doing X. Like they always talk about in recessions, cheap luxuries flourish, like lipstick, because people still want to treat themselves, but they can't afford to spend a lot.
Right.
So now maybe you stock more of those things. Whatever those services are that are growing, you lean into it, and then you can market those as well.
Yeah. So you've looked at your numbers. You now understand what your new numbers are. You focus on your driver, which is the number that, for us, I believe it's always the top of the funnel. And then you figure out what your message for the market that will work, incorporate that into your business and market that program to the consumer, right? And invest time and focus on your clients. Listen to them, ask them questions, right? Pay attention to your customers and your clients so that you can make sure the experience that you're offering is the experience that they want, that resonates for them, particularly in a recession. Make it a rallying cry, if you will.
Love that. So marketing in a market shift. You've got a chance now to maybe grab market share. What's funny is the very first thing, and we've got some studies we can talk about, that the CFOs, they step in, they take the reins, like we talked about in the previous episode, because you got to cut cost, right? We've got to find our profitability.
That's right.
Ironically, one of the first things they cut is the ad spend and marketing budget. So they cut the very thing that could be the lifeline.
That's right.
Which I don't mind. If the marketing isn't smart anymore, let's get our marketing dollars smart and then invest. But everybody is cutting. The opportunity for people who figure out the message is that they can go and spend where others, or invest in marketing where others are not.
Well, what does the study say?
Well, in Gardner, they looked at 2009 in particular, and they looked at a study. It was a 2022 study that came out in July from Gartner Research. And they looked at a number of companies that in 2009 either cut their advertising spend or they increased it by up to 25% or maintained it.
So either cut it or they increased it by up to 25%.
And what they showed is starting in 2009, when they made those decisions, the Great Recession, the people who invested in marketing, presumably smart marketing, they just start to diverge from the pack. Everybody who stayed flat or reduced starts to see a decline in their earnings. And by the end of it, which I think they tracked it all the way out to 2021, it was visually, I couldn't see the actual numbers in the graph they showed. It looked like at least 3 to 4x what the other ones were doing.
Yeah. It looks like almost maybe, at least 3 to 4. That's right.
But
but that makes sense.
But what we know is that when people grab market share in a shift, all the studies show this, they rarely give it back. Like, this is the opportunity to grab customers, make them loyal to you. And then when you go into the boom times, who are they working with?
Yeah. You know what? There were a group of books called Guerrilla Marketing.
Yeah.
Do you remember those?
Oh, yeah. I've got a copy. I think you gave me a copy.
I remember in the second shift that I was involved with, and I was in management, and boy, I grabbed those books, and there's a whole series. They're old. They're right. They're 25, 30 years old, those books. But man, what I loved about those books, Jay, was that they were just full of ideas that didn't cost money. So I just want to point out real quick that when we say that we want you to try to expand your lead gen, this is the time to double down. We're not saying that it has to be a budget breaker. It doesn't. It does not. Right? I used to teach new agent training in the real estate industry for a long time, and I would go into the classroom and I would look at the students, and I'm kind of a smart aleck a little bit, and I would say, "Would you like to know where everybody who is going to do business in our town today is?" And they would all go, yeah, absolutely. And I would reach under the podium, I'd pull out the phone book.
Of course.
And I would hold it up and say, here it is. And I said, what we're going to do is spend our time today talking about not having to literally go through the phone book and go and talk to everybody personally. But in the absence of a better idea, you could make a fortune literally just going out and talking to people. Now, it's not a leveraged idea.
No.
Right? It's not a leverage. We're going to talk about that in our last episode. But it works, Jay. It works really, really well.
And it's in tune with what we said earlier. If you're going out and having conversations with people, whether you're knocking on doors, standing in a mall, handing out flyers and having conversations, wherever it is, right? You're getting face to face with as many people as you can in two-way conversations. You're going to get really smart about what they need.
Yeah, that's right. The other thing that you can do is seek strategic partnerships with your vendors. Right? When you start thinking lead generation in a shift, you're not the only one who has an issue. All the other businesses that make money when you make money.
Oh yeah, our partner Jason talked about, like, if your transaction is kind of the bus, there's a lot of people that get on that bus.
That's right.
Right? Like the real estate sale is the bus for the mortgage, the title, the inspector, right? All of those different industries that come along for that ride.
Right. Well, every business has vendors. They all do. Right. So when there is a shift, one of the things that you do is when you're creating your lead generation program is make the list of your vendors. Don't leave anybody out. And then get on the phone and start talking to them, right? Invite them into your office or go see them and begin to brainstorm. How can we co-market, co-prospect, co-lead generate, right? Because you're suffering too.
Right.
Yeah. So what can we do together so that we can get me more business so you get more business?
Wow, I love that. And that's just, you're trying to unite. You'll find out really quickly which of your vendors are willing to invest in you. right? And it could be a form of top grading right there, whether it be your vendors, your supply chain, whatever. Like, you can do this kind of thing. Let's go through this together, and we'll all come out okay.
Yeah. The other thing that I just want to dot the I on, and that is, do not skip or avoid your nurture campaigns. What we tend to do in a shift is we tend to go for new clients, and we should, no mistake about that. But there's gold in your past clients or your database. Yeah. So you just want to make sure that you double down on that. No matter what industry you're in, there should be a long list of people that you've either talked to in some way and put in your database, or men and women that you've already done business with in some capacity. And the number one thing you should do when you're working on your top of the funnel is nurture, nurture, nurture. Stay in relationship. Talk to them. I mean, for heaven's sake, talk to them.
Well, we observed this after the last market shift with COVID. I was really surprised at how few of the businesses that I was incredibly loyal to, whether it be, a place where I went to get my back worked on, an optometrist, a dentist, whatever, all the people that I saw on a regular basis, how few of them alerted me of the offerings that they had.
Right.
Specifically me.
Right.
Like, they might have been putting ads out on the web. They might have been doing other things, but what I didn't get from very many of them, I can maybe count on one hand, an email saying, we have adapted. We can still serve you. We'd love to help you out right now.
Yes. Literally no one reached out to me either. And I was just shocked that the businesses I wrote checks to, no one called me up or wrote me and said, hey, I know you're going through a tough time right now. So here's our message of the moment, bam, in order to help you. We'll return to our normal business activities later, but right now, here's how we're going to do it. And here's the benefit to you. Come do business with us. No, literally nobody did that.
And the irony is we literally made a list of like our favorite restaurants and places that we would feel heartbroken if they went away.
Yeah.
And like, we made a commitment to order out from them or whatever. So like, I guess the lesson should be, if you're listening to this and you have an existing past client or current customer list, those might be the very first people you go back to get a sense of what it is they need so that they can stay loyal to you and they hear from you first.
Yeah, and the last word on that is, at least in my mind, is the word indispensable. And that is, when you're doing that, exactly what you're advising us to do, think in your mind, how do I become indispensable? In our industry, one of the things that we coach people on is to become the economist of choice.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason we do that is because if you go to the media and that's where you get your economic information, you are getting a very warped, usually very, very tiny perspective about what's going on and why it's going on and what could happen. I mean, we talked about this earlier, but the federal government will not declare a recession until certain things have happened.
Most commonly, like, it's not the official, but like 2 quarters of GDP, negative GDP, which they recognize. So it's like at the fastest is like 8 months that they can even look backwards and say, oh, by the way, back in April, we started a recession.
Yeah. So my point, my point is that you're watching the TV and they're talking about all kind of things. And you're sitting there going, I'm in a recession. I can feel I'm in a recession. But the newscasters, right, or the news outlets, none of them are calling it because the federal government hasn't called it yet, because they're not going to call it. So if you're getting your economic information from that source, it's not 100% accurate. It's not going to be, by the way. So
give them perspective. That would be like when I look at the people that I trust in those moments, what they give me is the proper perspective. And a lot of what we see in the media, their perspective is to get more viewership and more ad sales. And they often are looking at this week or this month. They rarely are putting it in perspective of, like in our industry, it's a 7 to 10 year buying cycle.
Right.
Like, so it's a much bigger perspective to make great decisions than what happened last month or this month.
Yeah, that's right. The thing that we forget is that it's less expensive to keep a client than to go find a new one. So becoming, making sure that you're in contact with your database and your past clients and becoming indispensable in some manner to them, right? Offering them something that they look up and they go, wow, that's really important to me. Sometimes, even if you're in a product industry, information around that could become indispensable.
Yeah,
it could be.
Absolutely. So like if we summarize this episode, what we want them to take away on lead gen, I'm going to do it and you correct me if I'm remembering wrong.
Take a run at it.
Starts off, we have to know our new numbers.
Yep.
Right. There's a new economic model in this and we have to figure out what that looks like. If we want to hit our goals, we're going to probably need to talk to more customers, more leads, as we would say.
That's right.
Once you know that, we've got to get our messaging smart. Right. So we've got to get either A/B testing on the web, or you got to be at the cash register, or you're picking up the phone or visiting your customers, finding out what is it that they're going to respond to in this market in terms of services or products that you can provide.
That's it.
Boom. You've got that now. You have a choice. You can just serve that market, or the level up is a MOFR. You've identified the problem, you figure out your solution, you turn it into a program, the Kellerize your home, blah, 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 right? Whatever that is. And then you integrate it and market the heck out of it.
That's right.
Because for whatever reason, people trust a system. Like it's a proven system and they lean into it.
Well, it's a rallying cry. Hire me because I'm awesome is not a rallying cry. But use my services because it will do X for you. That's a rallying cry.
And whether or not you're actually spending dollars, what we learned from that Gartner study is the people who increase their lead gen, right? If they lean into that versus lean back, they tend to prosper, maybe not necessarily in that moment, but certainly over the next years as they are acquiring more customers and teaching them to do business with them while their competitors are still focused on fixing their internal problems.
Yes. Yep.
What did I miss that was big?
Don't forget your database and your current clients.
There we go.
Make sure that you nurture them. And lastly, just make sure that you're indispensable. When you think about, MOFRs and being indispensable are kind of two big takeaways that we want people to get.
Go out there and charge the storm, folks.
Charge the storm.
Hey, did you enjoy that content? You should really check out some of this other stuff that we have to share. And if you like all of this, make sure that you click our subscribe and follow our YouTube channel so you don't miss a single thing.